afternoon, depending on which coast you're joining us from. My name is Chrissy Laughlin. I'm the marketing director at Epica Medical Innovations. We totally get that life inside of a veterinary practice is often hectic and your days are probably pretty much very unpredictable. So thank you for carving out the time to listen in today. We appreciate it. The goal of the webinar is to offer you some information, resources, and hopefully a fresh perspective that will help your practice and your staff thrive and become more successful. I'll take just a couple minutes to tell you a little bit about Epica Medical Innovations and why we're hosting this series of webinars. I won't get into too much detail about our company because that really isn't the focus of this webinar. I will follow up with an email after the webinar that will include helpful resources and links. In that email, I will include a link to Epica's website in case we've piqued your curiosity. Epica Medical Innovations strives to improve the prognosis, hopes, and outcomes for animals suffering from conditions that were previously seen as less than adequately treatable. We like challenges here. We know that science and technology can be brought together in ways that improve outcomes and safety experienced by patients while reducing cost and improving access to care. Our presenters today will be myself and Kira Federer. Currently, Epica's product line includes 2 high-definition, robotically controlled veterinary CT scanners. We have Vimigo, which is for small animal practitioners, and Pegaso, which is for equine practitioners. In addition to our veterinary CT scanners, we also have Artemis, which is a regenerative therapy device that reduces inflammation and regenerates and regrows tissue. When Epica was founded, we really set out to start a company that was different on every level. We're a company that's about more than just selling products. We put as much effort, energy, and focus into our culture as we do our products. Every employee that works with us is empowered, encouraged, and positioned to thrive and be successful members of our organization. By practicing this culture on a daily basis, we're able to accomplish really pretty amazing things, actually, and make what's impossible possible. We work together toward a common goal with clear vision and objectives. We realize that the magic that we're able to create on a daily basis is only possible because of the culture that we've created. We hope to have a positive impact on the veterinary community and to inspire and challenge other businesses within our community to take a fresh look at how culture really affects your business and ultimately the importance of happiness. I am going to go ahead and turn the floor over to Kira Federer. Kira is a product marketing manager at Glassdoor.com. They're our co-host for the webinar. Glassdoor.com is really changing the way that companies do business and hire. It's also changing the way that employees learn about your business and how your business can brand itself. In this session, Kara is going to walk us through how job seeker behaviors changed over the recent years, how your employer brand or lack of one is influencing your candidates' decisions, and she's going to offer us some resources on how to empower your employees to be the best tool in attracting new talent and customers. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Kira and let her get started. One quick note, in the panel that you guys have, there's a little box for questions. Please feel free to type any questions that come up during the presentation, and we'll address them at the end of the call. You're welcome to stick around if you'd like to hear what other people have asked. So here you go, Kira. Thank you.
So thank you guys again for joining this morning. As Chrissy mentioned, we'll keep it brief, but the question that we get more often than anything is, okay, we're hearing about this term employer branding now more than ever. What if I only have one set of hands? What if I am a nimble and scrappy team? What does that mean to me? So Well, we'll take the next 15 minutes to really walk through, one, why it matters. Because first of all, research is showing us that our strong employer brand can reduce a company's recruitment costs by up to 50%. So we'll talk through exactly what it looks like to use your current resources to get ahead of that. We'll cover what we know about today's candidates, the impact of employer branding, and how to build brand ambassadors. So I think we can probably all agree that today's candidates are changing, right? CEB recently came out with a study last year that told us 2/3 of job applicants are now more skeptical of claims made by employers than they were in 2011. So that's not a lot of time. Less than 4 years, and now more than ever, candidates aren't trusting what employers are saying on their career site, in their job description. And it's not for any ill will, but it's because our behavior has changed, right? We are now much more dependent on social media than we've ever been before, and it's completely changed the way we consume information. A Nielsen report in 2012 told us, and again, this behavior has only increased, 70% of consumers trust reviews and ratings as a source of brand information. And if you kind of gut check that with yourself, it probably makes sense, right? At this point, I make purchases on Amazon weekly, and somehow for a $10 item, I will read 7, 8, 9, 10 reviews. And that's the way we're being taught as consumers to buy and to inform. If nothing else, I want to have all the information. And you can imagine that today's candidates are no different, right? These guys are highly influenced by peer reviews and ratings. They are looking to see where and how they can understand what it's actually like to work for your veterinary practice. And there's been this explosion of transparency, and most of it is rooted in social. So we're seeing now more than ever job seekers really entering into the social world to, again, divert from a career site and now understand as close to the authentic voice of your practice as they can find. And 95% of employees are actually saying reviews from those on the inside are influential when deciding where to work, which that hasn't changed. We've always asked someone who knew, do you know anyone? If you could get any word of mouth information, that's where you trust it. Now that's just transitioned, and somehow knowing a buddy who works there has been replaced with people who look like me, speak like me, have held similar positions to me, say. So it's not surprising that we're seeing this behavior driven to Glassdoor. And what we're learning about today's candidates is that when they go to look and find what it's actually like to work for you, 94% are likely to apply to a job if the employer actively manages its employer brand. And so when we say that, what does that mean to manage your employer brand, and what is the research they're going to do? So if you think about wherever you're posting your jobs today, maybe it's a job board, maybe it's on your career site, maybe it's just in your local publications. As soon as they find out about that job, their next step is, how do I go find out more? How do I go and understand more about this practice? When that question pops into their head, the place they can go is Glassdoor. Now on Glassdoor, we have current and former employees leaving reviews around company pros and cons, company benefits, what can they expect in their health or stock benefits, expected salaries. People can anonymously cite their role and the salary they were receiving. We aggregate that information to try and give job seekers a pretty open understanding into what it's like to work there, what they can expect in pay, benefit, and really the entire ecosystem. Because this is not my $10 Amazon purchase. This is where I'm going to spend the majority of my day. And we're seeing 61% of job seekers in the U.S. come to Glassdoor to do that. The interesting part is I often get when I share with people I work at Glassdoor, they don't understand kind of where our role with the employer is. What our clients are finding is that the job descriptions they were once writing or the verbiage on their career site is really built to appeal to the masses, right? But ultimately, they don't want the masses. They want the people that understand exactly what they're getting themselves into. I like to actually think about, I was recently speaking with a client who shared that he got a review about his org, and the description read that essentially, come here if you're ready to work 12 to 13-hour days. Sometimes that can be tough. The great news is I know there's room for growth, and I've already transitioned to a new position. At first, he was really afraid of that review. What if people are turned off by long days? And when I asked him, is that true? Is that actually what it's like to be in your org? And he said, yeah. So then the question was, will this instead keep away the people that are not looking to work the hours that you're expecting and encourage people that are motivated by room for growth and ready to put in days of work like that? Maybe work-life balance isn't at the top of their list. Ultimately, he recognized that by putting an authentic picture of what it was like to work there, he's setting proper expectations. The people that finally apply, they've qualified themselves in. And those that didn't want to got to opt themselves out with an authentic view of what it was actually like to be there. They know what to expect in pay and benefits in the culture. So by the time they apply, they're the quality candidates you're looking for, instead of pushing this job listing to everyone and really telling a story that could apply to everyone. And with that authenticity, it's its own qualifier, it's its own filler. What we're seeing is, as I mentioned, these job seekers, wherever they go to learn about it, maybe it's Glassdoor, maybe it's wherever it is you're posting your jobs, after they've learned about that job, they're not going back. I'm not going back to a classified ad. I'm not going back to Career Builder to look at that job posting. Now I'm on the hunt to understand what it's like to work for you. And there's where your employer brand comes in. What do people say about you when you're not in the room? How are you perceived? How is your org perceived? Not as a consumer brand, but to spend 10, 11, 12 hours a day there. We say that when you're trying to envision exactly what an employer brand is and wrap your head around this, it's your image, your public portrayal, and again, from the employee side, and your reputation. Those together, Brandon Hall Group tells us, is what creates your employer brand. And the real question is, when we hear about branding, we often don't place, it's a nice to have, maybe it's a marketing nice to have, but certainly in the world of hiring top talent, the reason that we're stressing that it's time to care is because, again, when a candidate has a proper expectation of what it's like to work for you, then they come for the right reasons, and then they stay. We're eliminating some of this buyer's remorse. LinkedIn did a study in 2011, showed us companies that are tending to their employer brand, they're reducing turnover by up to 28%. They're lowering their cost per hire by as much as 50%, right? Because now if I'm attracting the right people, putting the right story out there, I have fewer applications of higher quality, and it's going to take me less time and less money to get to the ideal candidate. And then once those ideal candidates land there, they're bought in. They're working harder, they're working diligently, they're committed to the mission, and we're seeing improved financial performance by up to 36%. We actually had, late last year, Brandon Hall Group is a third-party research group. They dove into employer brand, realizing that this is this term that is no longer a peripheral term, but rather we're hearing this is the new face of hiring and recruiting. Organizations that prioritize their employer brand are 250% more likely to rate their overall talent acquisition efforts as highly effective. 185% more likely to have at least a high-level talent acquisition strategy, so they've got a plan in place, and 130% more likely to see increased employee engagement. If I'm telling a story that's really authentic about us, you're going to cling on to that and become a part of it. So right now, when candidates are going to do all of this research, as we mentioned, there are plenty of venues to do that. Your career site is one of them, but then they're hopping to Glassdoor, and of course they're hopping to Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. And ideally, as your recruiters and hiring managers are putting more fuel behind the fire, once you've got them in the funnel, there are only more people continuing to do that kind of research. We're seeing that 96% of candidates are actually reading reviews before accepting a job offer. And we tell our employers all the time, if you don't manage your employer brand, then someone else will write that story for you. Someone else will tell the story. And that's why we're encouraging employers, use this as your place to share with the world exactly what it's like to be a part of your organization. So now here is the key question. We get that job seeker behavior has changed. We get that this employer brand, this elusive employer brand matters, but how the heck do we do it? If we also have, it was a feat for half of you to even get on this webinar, I'm sure, in the middle of your hectic day. So how do you, with minimal resources, begin this? I first want to tell you that your voice and your guidance alone can lead the pack, but you've got a pack behind you. You've got your current employees, and they're there for a reason. So let's figure out how we bring them into the mix and how we make them your army of brand ambassadors. So the three key steps that I'll mention here are: 1, define your story. 2, assemble your brand army of brand ambassadors. And 3, amplify your brand message. So we'll dive into defining your story. I'm going to show you 2 mission statements. Imagine that I'm offering you a job, and I say to you, all right, I'd like to offer you a job to work for the largest social media platform. Okay. What if instead I offered you a job to give people the power to share and make the world a more open and connected place? You can see that if my feet are going to hit the ground each morning running to go to work, it's probably the latter that's going to be more inspiring. Now, both of these are Facebook, right? But one of them tells me what it is. The latter tells me why they do it. What is the purpose? What is the vision? And I say that because we recognize that people do not work for you because of what you do. They work for you because of why you do it. And I want to repeat that because I feel it's so important. They don't work for you because of what you do. They work for you because of why you do it. They could go to any veterinary practice in town or in the Tri-County area, but there is a reason that your employees have come to you. There is a reason they've joined the org, and better yet, there's a reason they stayed. So if you can figure out what that is, and then kind of gut check yourself. Is that reason, is that core motivator, that really guttural vision, where do your job seekers go to find that message today? Most of our clients would say it's probably not on their career site. And if they're lucky enough to bump into some of your employees that feel really strongly and have taken the position and stayed for these inspiring reasons, then your message may get out. But without it, where else can job seekers go to understand why you do what you do? And this is a key part of it. If you don't have this today, this is not a closed door scenario with just your executive team. I would pull together as many employees as you can and begin asking these questions. Ask why they love working in your company and find those common themes. Once you have that, you have your story. This is your employer value prop and what makes you unique. Now, and that can be your guiding light in so many decisions your organization makes. Is this a culture you want to keep intact? And how do you do that? And then use that and begin making that communication clear at all of your staff meetings and email communications. This is your employer value prop, why you do what you do. So once you've got your story, you're in a good place. Now we we've got the story. Now let's assemble our brand ambassadors around it. And a few of the ways we advise to do that is there are plenty of people within your organization at varying levels that have different spins and takes on the organization, but you want to hear a bit of all of those voices. So here are 5 different things that you could do today to begin to define your employer value prop and then get it out to the world. I'll walk you through that. Essentially, all of you have access to what we call a Glassdoor free employer account. You can get started on that today, 0 cost, where you can begin to make some changes to what the world sees when they go and do their research about you on Glassdoor. As far as writing up your own company background information, adding your photos, et cetera, encouraging your employees to leave reviews and responding to those reviews. But first, we've got to get some reviews there, right? We've got to get some reviews that do tell this vision that we now have. So you can invite new hires to leave interview experiences. New hires there in their first 90 days, they've got a really fun take on your company. They've got fresh eyes. You want those voices leaving reviews on your page. And job seekers really resonate with new hire voices, right? It's that same bright-eyed and bushy-tailed place that they intend to be. Having your managers encourage their staff members to leave reviews based on hiring needs. For example, we're hiring heavily in our sales department. We're really trying to encourage our sales representatives, hey, leave reviews because we're doing a big push to hire more salespeople. When they come and do research, they don't want to know just what Glassdoor is like. Ideally, they'd like to know what their role would be like. Inviting really all company team members to leave reviews. And asking C-level staff or clinic managers, practice managers, to make sure they're leaving reviews because they've got a different point of view. They can leave it from that 30,000 foot view. Now, I want you all to know that we don't expect you just to know how to do that. So at the end of the call, Christy will send out a link to some free resources we have, one of which is an employee engagement toolkit. We've got all of the templates written up for different departments for your entire org, as well as some timing around how consistently and often you can be asking for those reviews. You want more reviews. I will tell you with Glassdoor, the more relevant they are, the more recent they are, we view them as more relevant, and so they really heavily impact kind of your rating on Glassdoor. All right. And the next is, once I've defined my story, I have assembled my army, they're leaving reviews. Now we have to amplify our brand message in all of those same places that we discussed that job seekers are going. And again, you can use your Glassdoor free employer account to get on today and begin writing your company description, adding your photos, and making sure that that same message is consistent across all of your social channels. When someone goes to Facebook, are they reading the same thing they would on your career site and the same thing on Glassdoor? We don't know where they're going to research, but if they're ideal and top talent, they're probably going to multiple channels. So let's make sure that the message they're hearing is consistent. Another free tool you can use today is, again, claiming that free employer account and striving towards what we call an open company status. Companies that have open company status, they get a badge, they put that on a career site, they can spread it across multiple channels, and it tells the world, hey, we are an open and transparent employer. And we walk you through a 5-step process, so you know you don't just log into a free employer account. We guide you through exactly what that can look like, what the 5 steps are to begin to promote your profile throughout all of those social channels. And in claiming this free employer account, you're also going to begin to understand who is it that's researching you. Here we have traffic for you can really understand what your traffic looks like for yourself and your competitors. Maybe you ran a recruiting event and you had a big spike in August. You can understand, are those recruiting efforts working? Are things increasing, decreasing? Your reputation versus competitors, the demographics of people that are researching you, both their education, years experience, gender. the job titles they're most interested in, and the locations. How are you trending? If you've had a turnover in management in the last 8 months, is that trend changing over time? Are things getting better? So ultimately, all of these resources and more are available online at Glassdoor. You can actually head to Glassdoor for Employers and head to the resources. We've got webinars, multiple webinars weekly. Many of them talk about owning your employer brand with that authenticity. And if you're listening to all of this and at any point thinking, I just don't have enough hands, the message is you can, and if you begin encouraging your employees to begin leaving those reviews, your employer brand will begin to build itself. But as we said, if you don't own your story, someone else will. But we want to give you tools to do that. We've got ebooks as well. Chrissy will actually send out links so you guys can download these at the end of this webinar. We'll also send out a link that provides access to the Employee Engagement Toolkit, so you can begin sending that out to your org today to get those reviews and begin building that brand on Glassdoor. Once you claim your free employer account, you, or ideally the clinic manager, can begin responding to reviews, both positive and negative. We always encourage our clients respond to reviews over and over again. People want to hear from the employer's point of view. We want to hear from the employer's perspective. If you're responding to a review, we've got plenty of resources that help coach you through what's the best way to do that. Ultimately, you want to thank them, and you want to address what they're speaking about. Sometimes we think about not responding to a review kind of like walking by your practice manager, someone tapping them on the shoulder and them not looking up. This is someone speaking to you about your organization. You want to get involved in that conversation. Ultimately, I know I've got my contact information here. Chrissy has it as well. She'll send out these resources, but should you have any questions, don't hesitate to give me a call, or rather send me an email. I'm also on Twitter, but my biggest takeaway is you don't need a huge team to do this. There are a few small steps you can take today and encourage your current workforce to share the vision of why they're there, why they stay, begin to leave reviews, have your C-suite respond to those reviews, and ensure that that messaging is consistent across all channels. Because people don't work for you because of what you do. They work for you because of why you do it. And make sure that's easy for them to understand. And I believe we are at the top of our time. Chrissy?
We are. Yeah, thank you so much, Kara. That was really informative, and I hope that our listeners got some great takeaways. And as I mentioned, we'll be following up with an email by the end of the day with your links to resources. And again, we thank you so much for your valuable time, and we hope that you're inspired and ready to move your practice to the next level. So thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, guys.